So, one of the things about the theoretics that I like to operate with is that the Saud's world attempts to switchy bitch Islamic terror into being into the 21st century ideas of Saudi Arabia, which may be kind of like older in some sort of a misogyny way, but attempts to build a balance in the older thinking ways that exist in the Islamic world. So this one's titled Angel Man's Decree, who's also Satan. So in the world of Satan, what that means is Satanist. And that since Satan lived in the world of Satan, and people put scars all over my fucking body, and sat around calling me Satan and made me do all the fucking Satanist stuff as a kid. As a man, I do angel, which is to not do any of that stuff. And so there's a theoretical problem in the world that comes out of the Mongol, Asian, it stretches all the way around the continent of Asia, which is really where a lot of this problem comes from. It really does. These Uyghurs, which is pronounced in it sounds like a word that's unacceptable in America, but I just call them the Uyghurs, okay? Basically. And so, here's what it is. So, my theoretical mission that I do strategies, I understand this stuff better than anybody in lots of ways. So, an Asian mission, what it is that there's a unified world of allied that essentially operates around the Christian world, the Jewish world, essentially what would be the Saud's world, and then the allied people, including China. See, China has a real problem with this blackmailing. You'll see these articles about generals being blackmailed and stuff at little parties and shit. That shit is a huge problem. It dictates most of the things in their fucking world. And that with that comes people that essentially come in two ways. Some will be Islamic terrorism that'll maybe have like one horrible, technically satanic blackmail, and then other people that have the world's most satanic blackmails from all around the world, dictating what they do in China. In the Skull Team Run pedo bang way. Basically, it'd be like Osama bin Laden, basically. And then like ultimate skull and crossbones pedo bang land. That dictate things through blackmailing of what happens. Essentially, China has an ability to control a lot of the Asian continent, okay? And so what you have here is one and many, all right? So, for the Jewish world, it should be a focus on finding not somebody like me, but the top Satanists, the people that do all of the most authentic Satanist stuff all the time. Not somebody that's a victim with scars on their body. Somebody that does that type of stuff, to a theoretical person that would be like me as a child. That's called Elijah. That's called taking out your fiery sword, violating the rules, and getting a fiery chariot to heaven. That's what it is in their world. They're supposed to focus on the top Satanists of these weird Bilderberg, Davos, fucking world, that type of shit. And they're supposed to kill them. And then, essentially, what you get here is that in the Asian world, the people that would theoretically fall in, here's the Asian world, the people that would fall into the people that would be the right people that would want to kill them are the most righteous people in their Buddhist world, and thou shalt not kill a grasshopper. And that the people that would want to do that are at odds based on having a many god world, which is technically considered Satanist, so it falls into a sadism. And so then the right people that would want to get rid of Satanists are the people that will not kill. And so they come up to a problem. And so essentially they need help from the people that'll kill all the Satanists. And then the theoretical idea is that there's sub-leaders to the world of Satanism that the West, essentially, or NATO, is supposed to kill, basically. And that would be where there's theoretically one leader that is the top of everything, and then 8 leaders in this realm, basically. And then the Sod, essentially Islam represents Ishmael, basically. So this is like where theoretically to concise everything down to killing like Elijah is to be the smartest Hebrew ever created. Basically, to do nothing bad your whole life and then to take your sword out and to kill Baal. Essentially, Baal represented the high priests of Baal. And so, in a balanced world, essentially there's theoretically somebody that sits in this realm that essentially represents Satan, or not necessarily, or what would be like the king of Baal or something. And then that's who they're supposed to kill. Elijah killed the 8 high priests of Baal, basically. And that now, on the flip side, then the Jews are supposed to find these people that sit at the center. Like Jeffrey Epstein, he would kind of represent where he would have had 8 sub-leaders, basically. And that he would have sat as somewhat of a theoretical leader. I would call him Satan in a real way, basically. And so then, essentially, Jesus might have been taking a theoretical approach because King Herod might have represented this person. And Jesus might have done the non-violent version of killing him, like these people, basically. And so now, on the flip side, the NATO is supposed to, because these are the people that control the dark web, basically. And that theoretically turns into 8 people that are sub-leaders that essentially are the leaders of Satanism. So then, the allied Islamic world, essentially, there is many soldiers. Many soldiers of Satanism, and that they range in all religions, including this, and that would be their focus. And that I think that to focus this idea on Asia would probably help China clean up a lot of their problems. Because essentially the people that would be able to find out who those people are can't kill anybody. And they would be the only people that would be able to kill those people without being blackmailed. They might have speakers in a modern way without being sound tortured and shit. And that this is how I envision a religion bloc mission in the Asian world. Because essentially, the Philippines probably represented people that also adhered to this type of idea, that probably have like one very minimal, like a harem technically. Everybody's supposed to have one wife, one God. One wife and one God. And I think you're supposed to have many children. One wife, one God. That is what you're supposed to do. And everybody knows that. A lot of this stuff derives in this world from Adam and Eve. One God, one wife. 2 children, many children. And then essentially that's the example. And so the reality is that more than likely in the Philippines, the people that control a lot of the Asian blackmail system will probably have a harem and won't be doing anything bad. And that the people that have a harem, like Osama bin Laden, see, he wouldn't have been doing anything bad. And he just had a harem. So keep that in mind, because when you're battling Islamic terror, the people at the top are pure, except for a harem. And then that's considered like socially acceptable to them. But see, there's a real power. There's a real power. Because one God, one life, one wife. And then there's other things that are socially acceptable also. And that in a smart, one God, one wife, one life. And so, in a smart way, it is easily, this is considered technically lesser, because essentially multiple wives are considered a satanic method of marriage in a very technical way. And that then in your body as a temple is considered a lesser sin. One God, one wife, one life. That people that have harems technically are doing, Satanists have harems, and that is considered a satanic blackmail. it's considered a satanic form of marriage. This right here is just not making your body clean enough for God. It's like in the worst thing, you know, it's like a Jew. A Jew that has one wife eats pork. That's lesser than having multiple wives. And that's common sense. And see, not drinking and eating pork, or then there's shellfish above that. Shellfish above that is considered even lesser of a sin. And that this is kind of the theoretics of this stuff. Because essentially the harem is considered a leasty dark web blackmail. And that then alcohol is considered even leastier than that. And then pork. And then shellfish. Basically. And so keep that in mind, because like people that do polyamory and multiple wife kind of ideas, those are satanic ideas. And that people that have multiple wives are doing forms of satanic marriage. And that's what Osama bin Laden was doing. And that he operated out of a dark web. You see what that is? And you see that he sat in Pakistan, which is considered Asia, with multiple wives, sitting on top of the world, of that Islamic terror world, basically. And so just remember that the people that are on top they'll be living clean, pure lives. And that they won't have anything bad that they're doing except for being a misogynist that basically treats their harem as slaves. So that's something to think about, because that is where essentially these people, they'll be doing you have that, like, imagine this block being Osama bin Laden with his harem as leasty satanic, basically, but still technically satanic. And then these people being mostly satanic. And that those people will be in the West. And that they will technically be equal. 8 blocks are equal to the 1 block, basically. And that is kind of where those people are, where they'll be, this one will be at the lower level of the Jewish world, and that these people will be at the top level of the Christian world. And so, essentially, in a caste way, what that means is like Bilderberg world, kind of Davos world. And that then this will be your poorest but most righteous world. And then that will be a clue into the whole leadership structure of essentially what I've isolated down as the Asian or Persian Mongol Islamic terrorism. And so the whole idea is that the God's world, you do Satanism, you die. Basically. I always view them, I like them the most. They have the smartest way of thinking about everything, in my opinion. You do Satanism, then you die. Kill Satanists. That's like literally what that world is. And that they have an ability of literally destroying a lot of the problems in the world just by having that mentality. Because most of the problems in the world come from Satanism. I mean, in a very concise way. So, their very blunt, all or nothing approach is meant for soldiers. It's like in Islam, even if you're a soldier, if you went and like raped a kid in a satanic way, then you die. You die. It's like in our Pentagon, they would like probably utilize them, or they would put them in a prison or something like that, or they would use them as a soldier, as like a slave or something. In the Sod's world, if the same soldier was in his army, they would die. And that it's kind of like basically where that makes like his military, they all know not to do that stuff. They do. And that they all know not to do that stuff. And that in this world, people utilize them as slaves. And then essentially, if your slaves go beyond a common decency or something, then it's like if you're a soldier in the Assad's army or something, if you cheat on your wife, then you're a slave. And then pretty much you can't do anything bad ever. You know, if his army, if they didn't cheat on their wife, if they like went to Europe and stuff and started drinking, then they're free. It would be noted. They would be lesser, but nothing would come of that. But that if you molest kids, they would probably still make you a slave. But if you stick your dick in a kid, these are real ways. If you do anything that falls in to the satanic blackmailing kind of shit, if you're in the military, that's why they don't ever do that stuff. It's pretty much, they all just know that. Because the moment that they do this stuff is where they become an Islamic terror double agent. Because they hide it. And the only people that will hide it for you are Islamic terrorists that are trying to topple the Assad. And then anybody that gets that stuff found dies. And, you know, the ideas of inserts and lookalikes, and there's like the closer you get to the Black Rock, the more you can't be a Satanist at all. The people that live away on the outskirts, on the borders, they're essentially, I mean, this is why the like American Aramco base is like away from the Black Rock. Because those people aren't Islamic, and that the closer you get to the Black Rock and the cities, the more expectations are accepted or expected. This is what it is in their world. And so the more people understand that they expect only righteous people to ever be around their Mecca. Nobody bad's allowed to live around there. If they're like jacking off to porn, then they have to kind of bitch move away from Mecca. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's built around that idea. If they're like being Islamic sympathizers, that's not necessarily mean anything. But if they start accepting ideas that aren't in line with Islam, then they kind of have to move away. It's like bitch blocking up to the prairie. It is. See, in the wizard's ways, the Black Rock is considered a prairie. It is. It's Ishmael's prairie. Ishtar's prairie. And that, for his theoretical prairie logic, the Black Rock is a perfect prairie. It means a perfect establishment of a one God religion. That's what it means. It does. And so just remember that when a perfect prairie happens, everybody that's bad has to move away from it. That's the power of a theoretical prairie. And so that's kind of like where the Buddha has a prairie. And his, even though that's like a backwards thinking way. His is like a backwards thinking way of a one God religion. Basically. And that in the prairie world, you see how they don't do anything bad. And that they merely, like, their theoretic is that many gods mean one God. And you see how one God and then many gods are technically equal in ways. And so the Buddha had a prairie, a perfect prairie, and that it established this as a theoretical idea of like explaining the theory of life through all living things that God created in the one God world. Grass has a theoretical life and then it dies just like a human. Think of it as like the animal spirit one God world, basically. Kind of, it's like that. So theoretically, it's a protected world, but their world is diametric. So their prairie pulls in Satanism, where this world takes Satanism away. This is where theoretically I've envisioned a concisement that all spirit is one God. All living spirit is one God. In just a very simple, concise way. And that's where I theoreticize that based on certain aspects of the world, that they got it wrong in one way. all spirit, all living spirit is one God. And that I theoreticize that there's a religion of one God that is just concise. These are a little more extensive. And that basically everything living is good and everything dead is bad. Basically. And so that is kind of the theoretical prairie here. And so with that, the world here needs to understand that in the world of righteousness, these people, they don't do anything bad. Ever. The most unbad people ever. And that's hard to argue with. And that merely they think of many gods when basically all spirit is one God. God created the heavens and the earth. A concisement of one. Because theoretically, well, this is a one, this is a one, and this is a one. And all these people that are the most righteous, it's like the 32 most righteous people, and theoretically similar. And then these people have millions of people that theoretically could be the 32 most righteous people. Millions. But that they only lack in one kind of theoretical, diametric. Many gods. Keep that in mind, because I theoreticize that all of mankind probably derived out of Southeast Asia. We're at the beginning, when God created man. And you see, they have millions of people that literally have more righteous points than everybody in the fucking world. And that the only thing that makes them different in the righteous point way is that they do many gods. And then I theoreticize that they're just not comprehended one aspect. All spirits of living goodness are one God. And that's it. That's my whole theory about everything. And so with that, those people that are so much thou shalt not kill, which is theoretically something here and here and here, but we kill people. Basically, that they won't. And so they need the help of the righteous people that kill the Satanists. And so this is the most important ally in my theoretical Asian mission idea. The most important ally in the whole world is these people. Because they won't kill. And only the opinions of those people that follow this should ever matter. And that will be billions of people to what would be lesser billions of people. So, this is an important aspect because it's a very concise understanding in the world. So keep that in mind, that everybody sits around with their religion that essentially has this rule, acting like they're on top of the world. And then there's these people, the most beautiful people that come from the oldest culture ever created. And look at how many years they've had to fix their stupidness. a lot more than everybody else's culture. They've made all the mistakes first. They've had years to fix all that stuff. And then the only difference is they just view spirits as many gods, and we view spirits as one God. That's the only difference. So keep that in mind. This is why this is my Asian mission, because these people that have opinions that matter won't kill their Satanists. That's because they don't do Satan to their little kids and shit. They won't do that stuff. Basically, their black bloc is just not being like a one God religion. And that's their one error, basically, in the angel's land.